The art of closing any deal. I've closed hundreds of millions of dollars of deals on the phone, in person, more than that, but let's just call it $200-300 million worth of deals. And I'm going to tell you in this video, I'm going to lay it all out. And I've seen a lot of sales training, and some of it I agree with, but a lot of it I don't. So I was like, you know what, I'm walking to the gym. I'm just going to lay this out for you. I'm going to lay this out for you, what I think. I'm walking here in Europe. So number one thing to remember, I'm going to give you 3. Number one, this is the foundation of closing any deal. $1 million deal, a $10 million deal, a $10,000 deal, 1,000. Doesn't matter if it's a phone lead. It doesn't matter if it's an internet lead. It's all the same. Number one thing is what I call kinetic energy transfer. Kinetic energy transfer. The best salesperson in the world is not the one best at overcoming objections. Although that is one of the top 3, but that's not number one. Number one is kinetic energy transfer. So essentially what a salesperson does, what a master of persuasion, I rank my team from white to black belt. What a black belt does better than a white belt. I've done jujitsu for 10 years, so I just use the jujitsu belts, white to black belt, coral belt, red belt. They transfer more energy. Now you might think that the secret to sales is a good pitch and then you just overcome their fears. But that's not really it. That's not really it. And here's the reason why. Humans don't operate in the rational mind. So have you ever heard this old saying? I used to hear this and be like, this can't be true. It says 70% or more of human communication is nonverbal. And I used to think, bullshit. When I talk to my friends, it's all verbal. But what they were saying is I could say the same thing in 2 different ways and have completely different meaning. So for example, let's say I'm at a house party and somebody comes to my party and I say to my friend, oh, Emily's here. Versus I say, oh, Emily's here. They actually mean the opposite. So logically, those mean the same thing. If you write them down on a piece of paper, Emily's here, it means the same thing. But I transferred different energy. One of them, I transferred the energy of excitement. And so my friend gets excited. One, I transferred the energy of disappointment. So that's why a good sales guy can get on the phone. If you're having a bad day, you can destroy $1 million deal. You can destroy a $100,000 commission because the transfer of energy that day from you is disappointing. It's low energy. It's not charismatic. You see, humans are attracted to charisma. So you can look, if you still don't believe what I'm saying, look at some strange studies that exist. For example, there are studies on narcissism and psychopaths, that they are more persuasive. Well, that's interesting if you want to be in sales. Does that mean you should become more narcissistic and more psychotic? No, you should not become more psychopathic. What it means is those people with those 2 conditions, psychopathy and narcissism, are great at transferring energy. Therefore, they're perceived as charismatic. Therefore, they sell more. They persuade more. You know, you ever seen is like people watch these Netflix and it's like Jeffrey Dahmer. How'd Jeffrey Dahmer get all these people to go back to his house and he killed them? Because he was a master of transferring energy. Now that's in a dark way. Obviously, I don't train my team to do it that way. But what I train my team is to go, okay, what energy are you transferring today? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I'd rather have a simplistic sales guy who doesn't use fancy words and huge vocabulary, but transfers amazing energy. Now, the question is, what is the best energy to transfer? Now, some people will tell you it's like optimism. Like, you should buy this product. It's going to change your life. I'm not sure that's true. Because haven't you ever had somebody selling to you and they're kind of cheesy? They're literally kind of cheesy. They're like, oh, how you doing? You buy this vacuum cleaner, like, it's 52, you're going to have a good day. That doesn't work on me. So what I think is the actual transference that works best, the modality of emotional transfer, is passion for the product. So I was talking to a friend of mine. He does more than 100 million in sales. And he says, Ty, I only hire people. Andy Elliott, if you know who Andy Elliott is. He came to the house the other day. He wanted to meet. We did a podcast. And, we were talking about his sales philosophy. And one of the things he said that caught my eye that I agree with was, he's like, man, I hire people not with a sales background. I don't care about that. I hire people who have already bought my products. They were a student of mine and they got crazy good results. And he didn't say this, but I know why that works. Imagine the energy transference of a person who bought. So for example, if I'm Elon Musk, I'm selling Teslas. I don't want car salesmen there who drive a Ford. I don't want them who drive a Lamborghini. I want a person who's been driving a Tesla, and before they decided to be even a Tesla salesperson, they bought a Tesla and were so delighted by it that they're like, I love everything Tesla. I think I'm going to become a damn Tesla car salesman. And they already got 3 of their friends to buy a Tesla before they were even a salesperson. That's the dude who's going to make the most commissions. That's the guy who's going to close the most deals. No one else. Another dude who could come, who's a Ford driver, doesn't even like Tesla. He works at a Tesla dealership. He has spent 20 years in sales. He knows every classic sales objection, handling, all that. That guy is gonna sell less than the person who just like, hey man, I've only worked here a week, but I can just tell you this. I love my Tesla. Like, I am working here because I'm so in love with Teslas. I just like to be around them all day. Like I quit my high-paying job. I was making $500,000 a year as an investment banker. I was just like, fuck that. I love Tesla. I love the mission. I love everything about it. I love the car. I love the good it's doing in the world. Blah, blah, blah. And that guy unconsciously is the other person listening. Unconsciously is 10 times more likely to buy than the slick salesperson. Kinetic, and I call that kinetic energy, you know. If you remember in physics, one way to understand kinetic energy is there's a ball, like a snowball or a boulder or a rock at the top of the hill, and it's stuck. Like maybe there's a little rock blocking it. And this huge boulder will not roll, even with a little boulder underneath it, like wedged underneath it. But if a person comes and pushes it a little bit and gets that big stone, that big boulder, over the little obstacle, guess what? The kinetic energy starts to build as that big boulder rolls down the hill. By the time it gets to the bottom, you know, it makes this massive impact. Well, that's the same with sales. Your job as a salesperson, most people, if they come to your Tesla dealership, if they fill out a form on your website, if they call your company, inbound leads, they're already kind of interested in going down the hill, but they're always going to be stuck. What makes people stuck? Well, what we call protests. I'll talk about protest behavior in a second. So they get stuck. So a master salesperson who understands how to unlock kinetic energy takes his passion for the product, pushes them over, and then the ball will start to roll on their own and they'll convince themselves. I had a guy the other day, one of my brown belt salesmen, he's not quite a black belt, so I had to step in. I call myself a cleaner. I'm a red belt in my system. If you've done more than $1 billion in revenue in your career, which I've done, you get a red belt, right? It's not just me, it's anybody. So he's a brown belt. That means he's done, 100 billion in closes for me and stuff like that, let's say, or in his career. And he got stuck with this client, a high net worth client, who was like, oh, I'm very interested in the program. It's $25,000. And the guy's like, I don't feel like going to the bank. I have to go to the bank to wire. And my brown belt comes to me, he's like, I was like, I'm trying to convince him that it's not a pain in the butt to go to the damn, bank. And I'm like, he's not telling you the truth. He could wire from his laptop. He's protesting. He's putting up an objection because you haven't transferred enough energy to unstick him from that little wedge. And once so I called the guy and I did a system called future pacing, which I'll teach in another video, where I basically future paced out what his life was gonna become, right? I started and I got the rock unblocked, and 10 minutes later, he sent a message to my brown belt. Oh yeah, I just told my banker to wire the money by email. So the whole time the guy was lying. He didn't have to go to the bank, okay? But the way to overcome it is not objection handling. That's what my brown belt was trying to do. He was trying to say, well, I Googled the bank. It's only 1 mile from you. If that's too far, I'll get you an Uber. I'm like, don't That's not the issue. It's the unconscious mind isn't ready. It's still wedged because you have not hit him with enough passion for, he needs, my brown belt should have been like, look, man, I understand. You got to go to the bank. Let me just tell you something. I had 10 people go in this program in the last 6 months. Let me tell you about this dude. This guy was selling his company for 100 million. He got in the program, worked with Ty, changed the structure of his business, changed how he's marketing and advisor, and now he has the deals under contract. He's exiting his company for over $130 million. Ty, the guy paid Ty for this program a pittance. Compared, he made an extra $40 million. He's Ty's biggest fan. In fact, let me send you a video from this guy. See, that's better energy transfers. He's not only talking about his kinetic energy, his passion for the project, but he's sharing a testimonial of somebody else's passion. I get videos all the time for people in my programs that are like, oh, Ty's program changed my life. I'm like, forward that to the damn client. Let the kinetic energy from you as the salesperson, but also from testimonial videos hit them. And like I said, it worked. We didn't even have to do a testimonial video. I know how to hit people without testimonials. I hit them with the future pace, which I'll talk about another. Make sure you subscribe to my, following me, because I'm going to be releasing a whole series on sales. I've been doing sales. I built my first funnel in 2001. I built my first sales floor in 2002. So I'm one of the OGs of sales floors out here, okay? Small, medium, and large. And anyway, so that's the first one. There's a lot more we can do. By the way, I'm going to put a link. You should, I have two things. One, you can text me. I have two phones. I'm going to put my phone number below or pop up on the screen here or in the caption or comment. Text me, okay? Text me this word. This is kinetic. Just text me the word kinetic and a little bit about your sales background, and I'll send you some info. I'll send you like a PDF on some stuff I don't have time to talk about on future pacing. But also, I'm going to put a link to my free app. Download this and get into my sales tribe forum where you can talk to me. I answer in videos there. It's free. So you can download my official app where I go deep into this stuff, but you can actually interact with me and my black belts. So if you're in sales or thinking of sales, everybody's really in sales, by the way. Even if you aren't in sales, you want to find a girl, sales. You want to find a business partner, you want to raise capital, you want to sell products, sales. You want to get a better job, you want to get a promotion, sales. Okay, so I'll put that link also below to my free official app. I have a paid version of that, but you just start with the free one, start interacting. And I'll be in there. Ask me a question on this video, and I'll explain more about it in the forums, the tribes, we call them. Okay, so the second thing, remember I say 3 ways close any deal. 1, powerful mastery of kinetic energy transfer. Number 2 is understand protest behavior. So let's talk about that for a second. Now, a lot of people use like non-scientific words when they're doing sales. I think the more scientific and logical you get, the more money you're going to make, the more deals you're going to close. So if you talk to a biologist or a psychologist, they don't say the word sales objections. They call it protest behavior. So what's protest behavior? Simple. That is a person who's not quite ready to say yes. Not quite ready to be in a good mood, and they express it in weird ways. That's what protest behavior. So imagine a husband and wife, they're married. Or one time I was dating a girl for a couple of years, and 1 month she was just in a bad mood. I'm about to walk through a tunnel here, get a little dark. I'm just noticing she's in a super bad mood for a month, and I'm asking her what's going on. She's like, oh, this stuff going on in my life and all this stuff. And then I go, are you sure? No, it doesn't say anything. After about a month, she finally admits what's been bothering her is that I keep the toilet seat up at night. Okay. And she felt like I wasn't thoughtful of her, that I didn't put it down. And I was like, why didn't you just tell me that? And, she had reasons. But now I understand the deep psychology of the human mind. I understand the unconscious mind, that humans are built to be somewhat polite to people they know or they're face to face. That's why the only people ever going to be rude to you are people not face to face by email or commenting on a video you did. Humans are built to be relatively polite because any of our ancestors that weren't polite in person usually got punched in the face or stabbed. So we've evolved this ability to put a mask on even when we're bothered and be nice face to face. So when you're on the phone with a person, or I'm talking with my, this girl that I was dating, she doesn't want to just instantly confront me. She doesn't think that way. She doesn't go, let me not reveal the real way, the real reason I'm mad. Nobody thinks that way. When you're on the phone with somebody, you're trying to get them to close. Like I said, this guy in this other example, his protest behavior was, oh, I don't have time to go to the bank to wire. He wasn't consciously thinking, let me come up with a deceptive reason he was just signaling that he's still uncomfortable, that he feels something's off. So there's many types of these, protest behaviors, whether it's in love, dating, or in sales. Some of them can be like, oh, I don't have the time, or, oh, I need to talk to my wife about this. Okay, that's all great. Just, it never phases me because I realize that's not their actual unconscious mind. Their unconscious mind sees the ratio between the value you're giving them, the reward, and the pain of parting with money to pay you as too close together. So they see the reward and the pain too close. And since humans were built with what's called risk aversion, Daniel Kahneman won a Nobel Prize on this in the 70s, that humans are naturally built to a little bit not want to jump off tall buildings, not want to hang glide, not want to swim with sharks. And of course, money provides us food, shelter, water. So when you ask people to send you money for the sale, you're essentially saying, do you mind risking a little bit of your food, shelter, and water for this product? So if the value that their unconscious mind perceives you giving them is too close to the amount of money they have to pay, the pain, since they were like, well, what if it's not as good as what this salesperson is telling me? They're telling me the value is here and my price is here, but what if it's not quite as good as they say? We all kind of know salespeople can have a tendency to over-exaggerate. So when the ratio of reward and pain is very close together, people protest. They object. They go, okay, let me talk to my wife. Can you call me back later? I don't quite have time to finish this call. No, don't believe them. They're protesting. They're protesting. You haven't built value in the ratio needs to be like value here, pain here. You have it like this. Maybe you've built a little value. So the only things you can do, and this is for a very long, I just recorded, for those of you who are in my black belt, I have a paid community where I go very deep on this. If you go to titlebiz.com, you can join my black belt sales mastery. You should get your sales team in there. I will show you things nobody else teaches. I've just had such a wide audience that I have different insights than any other sales trainer. There's other good sales trainer, but none of them have some of the stuff that I put in here, okay? And this is, by the way, people say, Ty, are you a good marketer? I'm like, sales and marketing is the same thing. Marketing is just automated sales, okay? When I made my Here in My Garage video, that was just automated sales that I would have said one-on-one to a person. So if you're good at marketing, you're almost always good at sales, and vice versa, or you can be good at both if you practice a little. So anyway, if you want to be in my black belt community, just text me at the number below and just say, Kinetic YouTube or wherever you saw this video, Kinetic Twitter, Kinetic Facebook, Kinetic Snap, Kinetic Instagram, and just, you can ask and we'll send you the link. It's not that expensive to get into my black belt mastery. But I just recorded a 45-minute video on mastering this step number 2, which is overcoming protest behavior. And so you have 2 strategies. You can build more value, which is what I call future pacing. That's one way to build more value. Testimonials is a way, showing more testimonials. You build more value. You can explain the product better. Maybe they don't understand it. That builds more value. You can personalize the product. Sometimes people just read the features of the product and only half of them pertain to the client. Skip the ones that don't pertain because that diminishes value. And the other thing you can do to overcome protest behaviors and objections is lower the risk, right? So let's say you can't raise the value anymore, lower the risk. How do you do that? Payment plans or downsells. So if this guy wouldn't have done the $25,000, okay, wouldn't have done the 25K, I'd have been like, well, why don't you pay for it quarterly? Send 6,000 now. Because number 3 you're about to learn is the art of the instant close and why that's important in the modern world. You need to close on that instantly on that first phone call. You need to close instantly on that first phone call. But don't be like, I'll call you back in a week. People rarely even answer their phone. So if you get a mofo on the phone, do not let them hang up without selling them something. My black belts need to be like 40 to 50% instant close ratio. But sometimes they're just not, you can't build the value high enough. So you have to diminish the risk and pain by either doing a payment plan or if I'm selling a 25K, I always have a $5,000 downsell. I'll flip them to a product. Hey, you might not be ready for this product. Here's one that you can do right now. And there's one simple line. I call it the most powerful close ever. Okay, it's the most powerful closing line. I explained that in the black belt. I don't have time for that. I'll maybe record another video. But I hit him with this, what's called the absurd price range. So I hit him with this kind of question of like, hey, what's an amount you can send today that doesn't freak you out at all? I kind of shame them a little bit. Like they're a high fear factor human. People don't like to be, they don't want to admit that. So I said, what's the amount you can pay today? Then I give them the absurd price range, $1, $1 billion. Anyway, if they say a lower dollar amount that I can't do on a payment plan for the original product, I'll flip them down into a downsell. And if that downsell 5K, let's say, is still too much, I'll be like, why don't you pay for it monthly, $500. Instant close. Because if you can take somebody from a non-paying, audience to buying anything from you because of commitment consistency bias, they're like 50 times more likely to keep buying from you. So you always want the instant close. But anyway, going back to number 2, I'll talk about that in a second. The power of number 2 in understanding protest behavior is you understand you don't have to directly respond to their protest. If they say, I need to talk to my wife, I see all these people teaching online that you say, I saw somebody with kind of a witty answer. The witty answer was like, oh, well, wouldn't you rather just show your wife how this investment into this product made you 10K or something? Who's like, I forget how the guy said it. He had this slick objection handling. I don't think that works that much. That's not a black belt way. This doesn't have a high probability. So you can't just, if somebody goes, let me talk to my wife, you can't be so amateur that you actually think that's the truth. You gotta know, their unconscious mind is protesting and they're just trying to find any conscious words. Oh, they see a picture of their wife. Oh yeah, I need to talk to my wife. They see a picture of their dog, goes, I need to run it by my dog. Right? The conscious mind latches on to whatever's pops in the brain. But the unconscious mind is the damn reward is too close to the pain. Your ratio's messed up. So the real solution is not to go, well, sir, if your wife knew that this product would give you 10x the return on what you pay, wouldn't she be excited? Why do you even need to ask her? Like you're addressing a problem. That's like, again, with this woman I was dating, her being in a bad mood and me not getting to the root cause and being like, whoa, is your stomach hurt? Like that makes women mad. That's how you definitely don't overcome the objection and the protest behavior of a woman. What you had to do is get to the unconscious mind and be like, she might not even realize the main reason she's grumpy is because I was keeping the toilet seat up. She might, in her conscious mind, that might have been the triggering event, and she starts thinking of 18 other things she doesn't like about me. But the core thing, could be that toilet seat. So when a guy says to me, I need to talk to my wife or I need to talk to my business behavior, I just assume that's BS. I assume he's just grasping for words. And therefore, I just go back to the basics. Jiu-jitsu is all about the basics. Most of the martial art community is BS. Most fights can be won in boxing. I had a coach, a guy, Ricky, he's one of the top boxing coaches. I train with Teddy Atlas, just for fun. I'm not a pro boxer by any means. But, Teddy Atlas trained Mike Tyson in 17 heavyweights. He was just a fan of the basics. He was like a good jab, good uppercut. You got like 3 or 4 moves. Jab, get out of the way. Jab, if it's, they did the peekaboo style. But there's not that many moves. So when I see people in sales objection memorizing 30 trillion objection handling, I'm like, this is not a black belt system. Remember, there's a lot of people teaching sales that do not have the credentials to be a black belt. You're going to a jiu-jitsu studio for sales and you're learning from a blue belt and a purple belt. Like, I only go to school. My teacher, Higa Machado, is a coral belt. He's beyond a black. He's had his black belt for 30 years. So set your standards high who you listen to in sales, because literally 80% of the sales stuff that I see is direct responses to objections versus going to the unconscious mind that's causing the protest behavior. When this guy said to me, Ty, or he said to my brown belt, like, oh, I don't have time to go to the bank to wire. My brown belt fell for it. He fell for the trap. He's like, well, I looked on Google Maps. You're only 1 mile from the Bank of America. Like, can I get you a car? I'm like, this dude has a private jet. This guy has a private banker. Of course he doesn't have to go to the bank. He was selling a rich dude with a net worth of 50 million. Anybody with a net worth 50 million has a private banker that they say, hey, wire this money. I said, this guy's just grasping for bullshit and you're falling for it. So when I talked to him, I did not mention going to the bank. I said, hey man, I remember you telling me, because he had flown on the Gulfstream with me to Vegas. And I remember on the Gulfstream, we was texting the whole time on Slack. He couldn't enjoy. We went to Vegas. We went to Russell Brunson's ClickFunnels thing. And I said, what's wrong, man? You're working like, he goes, oh, I'm not good at delegating. So I end up having to do all the work for my whole 100-person staff. I have to fix everything. So I remembered that's his true pain point. And so I hit him with more value. I said, hey, by the way, I know you're getting to this 25K level. We're going to go crazy mastering delegation so you don't have to work. You work half the hours. You're working 16 hours a day. I want to get that immediately. Let's just imagine what your life's like when it's only 8 hours a day. Sure, we can get it lower than that, but 16 hours is too much. You told me you don't have time for your family and you're stressed out all the time. I was like, give me 2 to 6 months. We have a tangible goal. We're going to literally 50% of the hours you work. We're going to set a timer on your damn phone. You can't work more than this. And I'm going to give you my 14 division system of delegation, how I built companies from 10 employees. At the most, I've had 8,000 employees reporting to me as CEO. So I'm going to show you a system that's scalable. And I just left him a voice memo on WhatsApp. I didn't even call the dude because my brown belt had, it's hard to get people on the phone. And he literally, within 3 hours, he texted the brown belt, oh, I got my banker. I emailed him. He's wiring the money. We got the wire within 3 hours of me overcoming not the direct objection. I never mentioned how far away the bank was. I'm a red belt. I don't make that amateur mistake. Don't respond blow for blow with people. Okay, third and final. By the way, if you're seeing value of this, text me. That's my real iPhone number below. I carry a business phone and a personal phone. Text me the word kinetic, which is the kinetic energy that I talked about in the beginning, and just the platform you saw this on, Facebook, so I can track. I like to track, always be tracking, your sources, your attribution, it's called. So, and then just tell me a little bit about you. I'll send you the link to download the app. If you want to get in my paid program, I'll send it. If you want to go into the free community I have on my official app, you can do that. You don't have to pay now. I'll build a lot of value for you. There's not one person in sales, I'm telling you, that I've ever talked to that's worked with me who hasn't been like, Ty, you got 20 things that I've never heard anybody talk about in closing deals. Oh my bro, I've been in the trenches. They call it the 10 dark years. I've spent 20 in the trench. I told you I started doing door-to-door and phone sales in '01. So, I'm one of the OGs, not just internet funnels, also one-to-one sales. So the third one that I want to talk about before we wrap up this video, this one's crazy important, okay? But not as important as the first two. Number one was by far the most important. Number two was very important. But the third one is the instant close. So a lot of the sales advice you're getting, the books, they were written 10, 15, 20 years ago. Not knocking them, because sometimes old school advice is amazing. Don't get me wrong. But the problem is nobody answers the phone anymore. So like 15 years ago, Instagram didn't even exist. People now, if you Google this, the average person sees 11,000 images, videos, and ads per day. I couldn't even believe it. I verified it on like 10 sources. Go do it yourself. So 15 years ago, people were probably seeing 10% as much. So a lot of the sales advice is like overcome objections, let people get off the phone with you, hold the sales cycle. Don't be afraid of the sales cycle. So if it takes a year to close somebody for $1 million product, don't worry about it. You'll get them back on the phone. Well, you can go golf with them. People don't golf anymore that much. People sit at home. There's a book by Faith Popcorn, who's a trend, like a prediction woman. I read this book 20 years ago. She said the world's going to start cocooning. First, it was you could call anybody, no voice, no answering machine. Then in the 70s, they invented answering machines. Then 10, 15 years later, they invented voicemail, or 20, even more than that. So the world, and now they invented, then they invented email in the 90s. Then they invented the internet and social media, direct messages. So every single decade since the damn Alexander Graham invented the telephone, and this goes for Zoom and Google Meet calls and Teams, people have been answering the phone less and less and hiding behind their phone. So if you don't master the instant close and sell somebody something, even a downsell or a payment plan on that first phone call, your odds of closing that damn deal go down by 50x. Really. So I train my black belts, get some commitment and money. That's why my companies, we accept any way you want to pay. You want to pay in stamps? We'll pay, it's legal tender in America. You want to pay in pennies? I'll take it. As long as I can deposit in the bank. You want to pay with crypto? We got every crypto. You can pay with any crypto coin, even a shit coin. I'll just probably exit it right away. Anything you want. I make it so easy. And we'll downsell and we'll build payment plans for everything. Now, I call them unannounced payment plans. Okay? And unannounced payment plans essentially mean we don't talk about it right away because we don't want to offer that. It's a pain in the butt to have payment plans. We don't want to downsell, but we will with no guilt. And we'll flip it an instant if we need to. No problem. So sometimes sales guys are like, oh, I'm admitting defeat. I'm like, no, you're not. The wise general knows when to retreat a little bit. There ain't no general ever, the greatest generals in history, whether it's Xerxes or Alexander the Great or Caesar or Napoleon Bonaparte or Patton or whatever. These dudes all had tactical retreats. So if you have to tactically retreat with a downsell or a payment plan, go for it, because who cares? Only your ego matters here. Sometimes people get butt hurt. And by the way, where people go wrong is they go, no, Ty, I talked to this dude. He has 10 million in the bank. One of the things I teach people is how to assess people's personality types, including their risk tolerance, and you could get a percentage. So if somebody got $1 million in cash and they're a high risk taker, sometimes they'll do up to 20% of their money they're willing to spend. But you get these hyper risk averse people, they can have $1 million in the bank and you can only get 1,000 out of them, because part of the reason they have a lot of money in the bank is they don't send money out easily in their bank. In fact, sometimes richer people are way stingier. I remember there was this, one of my first mentors, he was almost a billionaire, not quite on the Forbes list, but ridiculous wealth. Like, he had a 42,000 square foot home. I don't know if you know how big that is. But I have a 25,000 square foot mansion headquarters in Beverly Hills. People think that's the biggest house they've ever seen. His was almost double. And this dude, though, was cheap. His wife had died, so he'd been single for 3 or 4 years, and he's like, hey, Tom, I'm coming down to LA. I want to meet some women. So I was like, great. He was always like, I want to go to the disco. He was older. I was like, you can't say disco. Nobody says that anymore, first of all. But anyway, so we go, and I set up, we were going to go out, to like a comedy show. And I set up, there was like 10 or 15 people going to come, mostly women, and me and him and a couple guy friends. Well, it turned out that night, I forget what happened, I couldn't go. So I just told him, hey, you go by yourself. So he ended up at a table, essentially him alone, with like 15 smart, beautiful women, all candidates. He wanted to find love. And the next day, he called me so mad. He's like, bro, you stuck me with the bill. I had to pay for all these women. And it was like, he's like, they went to Boa Steakhouse, if you know that. Elon Musk used to eat there a lot. In Hollywood, on Sunset Boulevard. He was like, you stuck me with the bill, whatever. It was like $1,500 to $2,000. And I remember saying to him, and he was like, you have to split the bill. And I remember being like, I wasn't there. And I set you up, dude. And this is a guy who had flown in a private jet, burning $10,000 an hour of fuel to get to LA. And that's when I realized rich mofos can be cheap. And I actually said to him, I was like, by the way, protest behavior. He was a blunt guy. And I just said, you want me to pay when I wasn't there and I set you up with a lot of cool candidates? Like I just shamed him. And he eventually relaxed, but that's when I learned, and I tell that story, the rich billionaire. I call it the Turkish billionaire. I'll tell you why in another lesson, but there's a famous story about this Turkish billionaire who came to America and was so stingy. He tried to go 1 year without paying for anything in Vegas, and they kept comping him hotel rooms and all that. Anyway, I don't know that Turkish billionaire, but I use the term. I know this American billionaire that was so cheap. So when you are trying to instant close, like I'm talking about, sometimes the reason people don't want to downsell or do payment plans is like, no, this guy told me he's 10 million liquid and we're only selling him a $25,000 package. Of course he can. And I'm like, but that's not how the psyche of risk aversion works. So lower the risk, add more value, transfer a lot of kinetic energy, your conviction on the product that you've used. Don't sell stuff that you haven't used the product. And then I'm like, at the end, I want you to just lower the risk. Be like, you know what, 25K, I know you don't know much about this product, and I know you're rich, but none of us want to waste money. So here's what I'm gonna do. Why don't you just pay for this on a quarterly package? It's a little bit more money, but why don't you just send 7,000 today, and then you can decide. You don't even have, you can just do 1 quarter, and if it's not good for you, you don't even do anymore, okay? And guess what? It works almost every time. If you're a black belt, you might mess it up if you're in a black belt, but that's why you got to become a black belt. Become a black belt. Because when you become a black belt, in my system, let me tell you about sales. Here's the thing I like about sales. One of my staff said, hey, Ty, I just went on ChatGPT and put in, who's the greatest 10 internet social media marketers of all time, social media sales. And it's like, it put you as number 1. I usually, depending on, it's funny if you do ask ChatGPT. I'm not saying this to brag. I just want to tell you the assurance that it's not just me telling you these marketing and sales systems I'm talking about now work. ChatGPT says, people are going in the cold water there. Other people say, like ChatGPT or other robots say, yeah, this stuff works. It put me. Sometimes I'm number 7. Sometimes I'm number 4. I've been number 1, number 2. So listen to me when I tell you that these 3 things are powerful at a level you cannot fathom. Okay? These work. Transfer kinetic energy. Number 2, don't directly respond to objections. Understand the psychology of people protesting, protest behavior. And then number 3, become a master of the instant close, even if you have to downsell or give them a payment plan, because in the modern world, people don't answer their phone. So the advice from 15 years ago was assuming a less busy world. People are so busy, so overwhelmed, they don't even respond to anything anymore. You see what I'm saying? So if you got them on the phone or Zoom or Teams or Meet, close them there for something, because then they're in the system, they're a paying customer, and they're 100x more likely to keep buying. You can ascend them up. Ascension program. So, all in all, what I'm saying is become a black belt. Because if you become a black belt, even if you lost all your money, you had to, for some crazy reason, bankruptcy. If you're a black belt, you're making $300,000 to $3 million a year in sales commissions. If you're truly a black belt, if you're truly about, you're making $300,000 to $3 million, depending if you're black belt going up to coral belt or red belt. And I've seen that in my life. I've done red belt numbers, and not more than 3 million profit in 1 year. But I like to exaggerate this, so because sometimes people don't believe my real numbers. But 300,000 to 3 million. So mastering these, you should watch this video twice or 3 times. It's free. And if you want to go deeper, text me or go to download the app and or go to tylopez.com and get look for Black Belt Sales System. It is the only one of its kind. As I said, you can learn from other sales trainers, but I have stuff in there that nobody else trains, because I haven't seen one sales trainer really that's been doing it at scale as long as I have, especially using social media lead generation. So I have I've spent, 50 million on split tests, more. So I can tell you the empirical data, not just my opinion. Oh, that closes, that one doesn't. I've done that on marketing funnels. I've done that on sales funnels. I split test that. I just spent 4 million on some split tests in the last 6 months. And so I can tell you what works right now, 2025, 2026, 2027, going forward in the new AI world of busy people, is a different sales system than even what was being taught. I had a sales program in 2016, a decade ago, but that one's a little outdated because people were less busy. They were less distracted. We live in the ultimate ADHD world, the ultimate. So I don't care if you're just a business owner or you're an employee or you're in sales. To get and by the way, in my program, you get certified with a belt, and we're very picky at giving out a black belt. Very picky. Like, I can go a year without giving anybody a black belt. This is not like karate dojos where 8-year-olds get black belt. This is like jujitsu, where you can go a decade and still not be a black belt. But if you are a black belt, you're a badass like humans have never seen. You're set for life. As long as you have your vocal cords, you're set for life. And I guess if you lost your vocal cords, you could sell by email or text or WhatsApp. So, there's many things you can aspire. You can get a poetry degree. You can get an MBA. You can become an entrepreneur and build a business. You can get a 6-pack. But none have the direct and as predictable financial reward as getting a black belt in my system. So start with watching this video. For those of you who want to go through the certification, see if you can move from white to blue. Blue, I added in one belt, green. That's not in jiu-jitsu, but blue, green, purple, brown, black. Black belts can close $1 million deals by themselves. Not necessarily a one-call close, but they'll instant close a deposit, and then they'll go in and some of my team, we just closed 4 deals at $1 million in the last 4 weeks. So I've closed bigger than that. So this system works. It'll work in every industry. Download the free tribes, go to tylopez.com, or just text me or WhatsApp me to this number. It's a real iPhone. Don't call. I don't answer. I turn off the ringer. But I do check every day for about 10 minutes. I'll scan the WhatsApps and I'll have my assistant send you stuff. So just send me the word kinetic. That's the kinetic energy lesson. And the platform you watch this on, and a little bit about you and what you need. And we'll send you some free stuff. Okay, but watch this twice. This is too deep of a video. It's too complex of a video to just listen to once. I'm not saying that to like beef myself up and be like, look how great I am. I'm just telling you, I hit you with a lot. This is stuff I normally train over a couple months. And I was like, let me just do one video. So subscribe, follow, and leave a comment below. What would you like? What did I not cover that I should cover in my next video? What are things in sales, or what are things you don't see what I'm saying? Maybe disagreements. Leave a comment below. All right. Talk soon.